Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast, where men can get together and be strong, dominant alpha males and not apologize for it, where we share the truth, where it's good for men to be strong and dominant and powerful, because we are made in the image of God, as the Bible says, and He is all those things, and we are made in His image, where we wash off most of the garbage and filth of today's modern society, the lies of things like toxic masculinity, and a culture trying to weaken you into its own twisted ways, where we stand up and say yes to the men that we were created to be, and no to the lies that culture is trying to force us into. Today we're going to try a little bit different format, because one of the things you should do as a man, as an alpha male, is always try to be better, always try and do more. The talents you've been given, always try, take those blessings and multiply them. So I am going to put in the bio that's normally in the beginning, in the latter part of the episode. I will say quickly, first and foremost, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. God is number one in my life, and everything that I do in this podcast is no different. With that, let's get into today's topic. Do you ever feel like you don't fit in? Do you ever feel like you don't fit into this modern culture, this modern society? Do you ever feel out of place in this world? Do you ever feel like just maybe that's not how this is supposed to be? I'm going to submit to you now that that's probably the correct way. That's probably the right way and the right response to this world. And I'll go down some of the things so we can reason together why that is so. So again, if you feel like you just don't fit in this world, if something's just not right, if the system seems twisted, corrupted, I would submit that that is correct assessment, and here are some reasons why. First and foremost, if you are not a Christian, if you are not familiar with the story of creation, you may go back and research that, because I'm starting from an assumption that you already know that story. But we were made for a paradise. We were made for a perfect world. And we, and I mean the colloquial we like mankind, we pretty quickly ruined that and got kicked out of the idyllic garden. So you don't fit in because you were made for a paradise, which anybody can look around and see that this world is not. And many great men of the Bible knew this and recognized this. For it is written, "For they all died in faith, not having received the promise, but seeing it from afar off. For they declare plainly that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth." Now, I said in the beginning I'm a Christian and I don't apologize for it. You should never completely fit in this world because you weren't made for it. Think of it like being in a tent. It's not meant to be a permanent situation. You were made for more and you were meant for more. Your time in this earth as it is now, in this fallen state, is a temporary thing. All the things, it is written in the Bible, the things we think of as real that we can touch and smell and see, those things are all changing and passing away. The things that are eternal, the things that don't change, the things that you can't see, God, love, those things are forever. So number one, don't set your mind on things of this earth as your number one thing. Set your mind on things above, your true and eternal home. With that said, even though it has been a long time since we left the paradise of the garden, this modern world, this modern culture that we live in, I would submit has fallen quite a bit even from that. Has fallen quite a bit from what we've had through most of the history of human civilization. Let's say 6,000-ish years, just for a round number, more than an exact date. Look at how humans were. Look at how humans interacted for most of that time. Look at the world in which they lived. Now, obviously, I have different cultures, different civilizations. Empires rise and empires fall. But think of throughout most of history and think of the world that we live in today and how strange it is, how odd it is, how alien it is, how unnatural an environment that we have constructed for ourselves. And is it any wonder that you don't fit in? Any wonder that you're out of place? So if we look at the vast majority of our time here on this earth as a civilization, as nation states, the vast majority of that time we were in small, tight-knit tribal societies, whether that was hunting and gathering, shepherding, livestock husbandry, cultivating plants. I won't say agriculture because that is kind of a very modern construct, but the cultivating of plants, the moving around to gather plants and natural resources, and the changing of the environment to grow plants that we favored that we could eat as food. Throughout most of that time, we were in small, tight-knit tribal societies. Even if you think about big cities of the past like London, things like that, that was a very small portion of the population. It wasn't until very recently when most of the Earth's population moved in to large urban areas. For most of the time, I would submit that we were designed to be in small, tight-knit tribal societies. And doing some very rudimentary research, it looks like the U.S. population didn't become mostly urban until the 1910 to 1920 range, and the world population didn't become mostly urban until the 1950s. The 1950s, that's not that long ago, especially when you look at it in the context of thousands of years. So this strange world that we inhabit now is it's a far cry from what any of our ancestors were in. So keep that in mind if you feel like you don't fit in, if you feel like this world was kind of not made for you. Keep that in mind. Going back to, the tribal societies, that is how we're supposed to live for most of our existence. And the stats I just quoted, those are from one source I quickly looked up. This is something that I don't even remember where I heard it from. It was from somebody researching PTSD. So, by the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established, the Bible says. So don't take this as fact. Do your own research on this. But I heard an interesting theory that stuck with me. It's been a while since I heard this on PTSD, and it said that one of the main causes for modern PTSD and why it's so prevalent as opposed to other wars in history and other times in history is that when these young men go off to war, they actually have, maybe for the first time in their life, a tribe. They have a group of men that they depend their lives on. And if you've ever served in combat like I have, like I said, I moved the bio to the end, but I've been to war a couple of times. Marine Corps, served in the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Army. And you get, even though the Army and the Marine Corps are very large, your specific unit, especially in the infantry, you have a small, tight-knit group, a fire team of guys, a squad of guys, a small tribe that you literally depend your life on, that you eat with and sleep with and fight with. And you get that tribe. For the first time in your modern life, you get to taste that tribe. And even though it's miserable, even though it's unbelievably hard and war is horrible, that you get that tribe. And when you leave and you're thrown into the vastness of this, strange society that we live in, you lose that tribe and you mourn that loss. And even though those times were way worse, you had a group of people that you could, I don't know if commiserate is the right word, it's the first one that came to mind, but people that understand the struggle, the people that understand real struggle, real hardship. Even though you go through it with people that are in it with you, with a tribe. And when our modern veterans get out, they lose that for the most part. Even if they go back home to their family, a lot of the families have kind of been jettisoned in modern times. The family values, the way we value a family, the tight-knitness of a family in large part has gone away. But even if it's there, those people didn't experience what you experienced. The people that experience with you are kind of stripped away from you when you get out. And perhaps this person was saying that is a cause for PTSD. You see examples of PTSD throughout history, throughout wars, but the percentage has really gone up in modern times. If we take that as being true, and we take this, I guess, theory as being true, then that would be because of the stripping away of the tribalism that we, for so much of our existence, depended on and valued. So if you feel a little bit alone in this modern society, if you feel a little bit without community, if you feel that, the first thing that God says, the first thing it says in the Bible that is not good, it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good for man to be alone. The very first thing it says is not good. You are meant for a tribe. You are meant for a tight-knit group of people. And in large part in modern society, we have willfully stripped that away from ourselves. Even if you look in the past, even if it was a city, which were fairly rare through most of human history, a lot of those people in those big cities had smaller little boroughs or little communities within that where they still had a fairly decent tribe. I propose. Obviously, I wasn't alive in those times in those places. So look at how we lived for so much of our history in these small tribal societies. And look at how we live now and what a perversion it is. And perversion means to go away from the original. Look at how different it is when people live in these things I call people hives, the suburbs, apartment complexes, you know, where you just shove everybody together and stack them on top of each other like cordwood, like insects. Look at the next time you drive by an apartment complex and see if it doesn't remind you of a hive of bees or ants or termites. And they shove everybody together that have really no interconnection. And although they're physically very close, they're tribally very far apart. So you shove everybody together, but in a strange way, they're still alone. They're still by themselves. You know, whether it's shoved in together in an apartment complex or in a suburb, little boxes on a hillside that all look the same. But if you go to the end of one of those cul-de-sacs in modern society and ask how many of those people know their neighbors, not know their name because it's on a mailbox, but really know them, really spend time with them. You know, sit by a fire and eat with them like we did for so much of our tribal history. You know, how many people in those cul-de-sacs really know their neighbors? How many people in those apartments really know their neighbors, can depend on their neighbors, are a tribe? Just thinking about that, I thought about some of the most famous, you know, TV series in modern times, you know, Friends and Seinfeld. You know, and those people, you know, what makes them stand out, what makes them enjoyable to watch is that they have a tribe. They have a close-knit, small group of people. And that's maybe why we like them so much, those shows so much, even though they're kind of literally about nothing. We like them because it shows us that tribe, and we long for that tribe. We were meant for a society, for a culture, for a way of life that largely we don't have anymore. Think about a cubicle. Think about what an alien world that is from what a strong, dominant man is supposed to be in. Think about, you know, a man. Let's take a shepherd, for example. Whatever little community that he lived in, that he was a part of, his family, his extended family, a couple of close-knit families, a tribe, he would go out and take care of sheep, maybe defending them from wolves and lions. His strength and bravery was valued. He was valued. You know, maybe once in his life he'd be called on to fight a war. His strength and bravery was valued. He would go from his small little, you know, tribal society, and he would maybe walk on a road, you know, and he would see passers-by, people that he knew, and he would talk to them and greet them. He would go out and be in nature and, you know, shepherd his flock and take care of his flock. Maybe there was one or two other shepherds that he partnered with and, you know, went through different valleys and different hillsides and walked different paths and came home, and he was appreciated for what he did, and his work had real value, and he could see the value of the work of his hands. He enjoyed the fruit of his labor, you know, literally harvesting the animals that he helped take care of, putting that meat on the table, as the saying goes. He was valued. He was known. And you look at that in comparison to today, where a man might live in a people hive, in a suburb where all the houses look the same, where nobody really knows him. He gets in his, you know, little car, his sedan that looks like everybody else's, and, you know, he drives to work on a freeway where he doesn't speak to anybody. He rolls his windows up and listens to literally what's called programming, where other people tell him what he should care about and what he should think, who've probably never met him, and they tell him what he should think about and what he should care about. And he goes to a job, one that sits in a cubicle, where he does work that he can't really see the fruit of his labor. You know, he might start off his day by tying a noose around his own neck, you know, a necktie, for no reason. They serve no practical purpose. just because people think it's normally tie something around his neck for no practical purpose and go sit in a cubicle exchanging his time for money for 40 hours a week to go back home, even if he, even if he has a wonderful wife and a smaller family, he likely doesn't have that tribal society that he's used to. And is it any wonder why so many people, are depressed or this or that, and they feel like they don't fit in? And I would submit a large part of that. Nobody's perfect. We all have things that we can work on and improve on in life. No man is perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But, realize that you weren't made for the environment that you're in now. It's such an alien, foreign environment to what's natural to man. This is the Alpha Male Podcast. Throughout history, strong, dominant alpha males that had an abundance of self-control, but knew how to use violence as a tool against threats, against enemies. Those men were valued. Those men were cherished. Now they give it this garbage title like toxic masculinity. How toxic is that when another tribe, when another group of people, or an enemy, a lion, a wolf, is trying to kill the other members? Is it toxic then, or is it valued? It's valued. We've just made such a strange culture in society today that the things that should be valuable, the things that are good, the things that are important aren't valued. And not that there's nothing wrong with us. Like I said, nobody's perfect. But we live in a wrong world. We live in a fallen state. You might say that this, social media thing is a yearning for a tribe, for a society. But it's a poor substitute. How many friends on Facebook would you trade for a couple of real friends? A couple of real men that had your back, that you could call on at 3 a.m. when your car breaks down to come give you a ride, and they would do it and they wouldn't complain about it. For a friend, let's make one up, named Bill, who you knew was a professional, construction worker that was good at roofing, and your roof had a leak. And you could say, hey Bill, this weekend when you get some time, I'll barbecue out. If you can come over and help me with my roof, that'd be great. And the weekend after that, you can feel free to take my boat and go out and go fishing. Enjoy yourself. Because in a tribal, tight-knit community, resources, whether they're talents or resources as in goods, are meant to be shared. They're not meant to be hoarded. How many Facebook friends? How many Instagram likes? I would submit there's no amount. There's no amount that can compare to a real community, to a real tight-knit group of men, women, children, a tribe. I'll mention another part of society that we've really done away with. Traditionally, in those tribes, in those small communities that we're supposed to be in, I would submit that we're designed for, that we've spent most of our existence in, the elders were valued as wise, as a great resource in that community, a great resource in that tribe. The older men were valued. They were sought. They were a treasured part of that tribe. The Bible says you shall rise before the gray-headed and honor the presence of an old man. They're respected, revered. And now we take the oldest and wisest among us and we shove them behind locked doors. We put them away like a leper colony. We lose how much of that wisdom, how much of that knowledge, how many of those great stories that we can learn from are being lost every day in old folks' homes across the country. Because we're too busy spending our 40 hours a week at work, seeking after a dollar, and not valuing things that are really important. How great a resource is wisdom, is knowledge, is experience. We touched on it earlier, but I don't talk about this in my bio generally, but I'm from a broken home. I serve as the leader of a tactical team, and most of those men that when we've touched on the topic, I believe the majority of them have come from a broken home. We stop valuing the family. Now, I'm not going to say anything bad against single mothers. Like, if that's a situation that has to be, if she's a widow or something like that, that's an honorable thing that she's taking care of her kids by herself. But we've kind of made it like the single mother is, more valued and more heroic than an actual stick-together family with a father and a mother and, grandparents that are in the picture. It seems like society kind of lionizes and encourages these single mothers. You don't need a man, they're told. We'll make them pay money. We'll make sure you get a paycheck. But a man's worth to a family, a man's worth to a child is so much more than a paycheck. It's so much more than money. It's so much more than that. A father's value is not merely a monetary compensation. It's distilling of discipline and toughening up. God designed the family with a mother and a father, and the mother is important for nurturing and for feelings and compassion, and the father is important for toughening, for strengthening, for instilling honor and discipline and all those things that are so much more than a paycheck. Mothers are great, but I would submit it's not a mother's role to forge a man. I didn't grow up in that kind of family. Likely many of you didn't either. But throughout most of human history, that's what you're supposed to get. You're supposed to get the nurturing of a mother and the strength and the toughening up of a father, of a strong, dominant father who survived harsh times, who worked with his hands. You were supposed to get that wisdom and knowledge from your grandparents. You were supposed to get that. And that's largely been taken from us and robbed from us and been replaced with things that don't really fulfill us. A bank account, a white picket fence, a cubicle. Let's look at what humans ate for most of human history. I'm talking about real human food. Meat. You are to have dominion over the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. Meat. You have canine teeth for a reason. Proper human food. You kill an animal and you eat it. We don't value that anymore. We are divorced from our food. Even if we eat meat, we get it wrapped in cellophane. We don't appreciate the life that was given for us to be strong. Proper human food like spinach. Proper human food like whole nuts. Proper human food. Turn over the back of a package of Doritos or Oreos and read what's in there. And see if you think that's proper human food. If you eat an average American diet, which I hope and I pray that you do not, think of how much of your diet is corn and soy. Even if you don't realize it, start looking at the packages that you're eating and see how much of that is corn syrup and soy lectins. In times past, in many societies, grain is a staple, but it's kind of a survival food. Grain is valued by societies because it can be stored for hard times. But think of how many health problems there are today that were basically unknown to our ancestors. And you think that's not a coincidence that we've gone away from eating proper human food to eating crazy, engineered, scientifically altered things designed to make you eat more of it and to make you be unhealthy by giant companies that also, have giant companies that make drugs and push drugs on you, so when you're so unhealthy you take a drug to fix it because of the food you shouldn't have eaten in the first place. Scientifically engineered to make you hungry to eat more of it than you should have eaten if it was a natural human food. And spend most of your day sitting in a cubicle, divorced from physical activity and labor. And you wonder why you think something's not right. Well, because you're not an idiot, and you know it's not right. You know that that's not the environment that a man is designed for. You know that's not the environment that best suits a man. And an alpha male even more so. Strength is supposed to be used. It's supposed to be utilized. You shove a man in a cubicle, that strength doesn't do a whole lot. I'll reiterate what we touched on earlier. You are not made for this world. You are made for better. You are made for better than this culture, better than the society that you're in. You were made for better. You are meant for more. If we take away today's, ridiculous microaggression, toxic masculinity world and look at real human societies, more traditional human societies, wherever they are on earth, they value the warrior. The warrior is a valued and appreciated member of that society, of that tribe. He protects the rest.
He guards against the other tribes. He guards against the wild beasts of the night. He protects his tribe, and that's valued, and that's honorable. And compare that with the society that we're in today, where all these men, especially young men in the years that are supposed to be strong and dominant and have a healthy place to let out their violence and their dominance, and we largely strip that away. And without those healthy outlets for violence, for dominance, for strength, we get it coming out in all these places they shouldn't. Now let us look at another thing that's very modern. In fact, it changed in my lifetime. You know, I was born in the early 80s. I'm not that old. As healthy and strong as I've ever been. But when I grew up, there was none of this cell phones. There was none this thing that's always a way to escape. And why do you seek your phone so much? Perhaps, I submit, because you want to escape from this strange world that you're in that you're not made for. This environment that you're in that's so alien. You seek an escape from it. But think of how modern that is. Think of, like I said, I'm not that old. I joined the Marine Corps in 2001. When I went off to war, cell phones existed, but like people didn't have them. Like the average person didn't have them. And I came back from the war, and seemingly to me, it happened all at once. Obviously, that didn't happen like that for the rest of the country. But in a very short period of time, in the course of, one deployment to war, I came back and cell phones were a thing that people had. And granted, even for a while they were flip phones. They may have had internet, but it was not like you think about an iPhone today or an Android phone today. That is so recent, so modern, that most of us can remember a time when it didn't even exist. Think of how alien that is. Think of how strange that is. Think about that in conjunction with everything else in our modern world. And compare that to a walk you've had in the woods. A walk you've had in the forest, in a field, in a meadow, by a pond, by a river, sitting on the ocean. Nature is powerful, but nature is simple and beautiful. An environment we were made to be in, versus a modern urban environment that's jarring and assaulting with lights and sirens and a screen in front of you all the time. Where you barely have time to think, and when you should be taking time to think and contemplate life and contemplating maybe why you don't fit in, instead you get on Instagram or Facebook or look up something that probably makes no difference, or at best or at worst is detrimental to your existence, to a healthy spirit, a healthy soul, a healthy mind, a healthy body. Think about how different that is than how it's supposed to be. Think about throughout most of human society the things that people valued as good, the things that people valued as noble, as things to be aspired to, and how that's changed to today. Think of what, popular culture values and thinks is good and important. Literally calling sinful, evil things good, and good, wholesome things sinful. Just a small example of that. Recently I made an advertisement for this podcast, and it was a picture of me after a successful hunt, and it said at the top, toxic masculinity, ? And at the bottom it said, nope, it's 100% something organic, wild caught, something like that. And that got banned. Yet it seems like a ton of the posts on Instagram or whatever are half-naked women running around acting like a profession that used to be thought of as shameful. But that's okay. Think of many of the things in modern society like that should be valued. Strength, the ability to put meat on the table, literally. I remember a little bit farther back, I was trying to get off social media. I would pretty much severed from social media until I started trying to put more in the podcast, and I figured I probably should have a Facebook, probably should have an Instagram. So I reluctantly got back into, because of a job, those things, because I thought it would do, good to promote. And I got on MeWe because I thought maybe MeWe would be a better platform. Maybe it would be more, wholesome, better than, what Facebook has become, what Instagram has become. So MeWe is still there. I don't really get on it anymore. And I tried to get a little survival group together. You can start groups on there. And this was, a survival group. And I got on there and posted pictures after successful hunts, of animals that I was had killed and was going to eat, or other people were going to eat. And they weren't real welcoming of that. You know, they have this like meme idea of survival, of like things, and this is a survival group. I don't know how they think meat gets in their stomach, but an animal doesn't just jump out of its skin and into the frying pan for you. It's a messy process. Being able to hunt and kill an animal is a good thing. Putting meat on the table, you know, is a good thing. But we've become so divorced from what's really good in this modern society that those things are thought of as, you know, weird. It's weird to hunt your own food. It's weird to put your own meat on the table. It's weird to kill and butcher and eat an animal. But, you know, it's okay for women to go to the gym in yoga pants and do hip thrusters in front of, you know, men. It's touted as something somehow good now, that people try and pretend that there's something they're not, that they can never be. Trying to pretend there's something they're not. They're never intended to be, never designed to be, never created to be, and that's somehow good. But things that are really good are considered bad. And this should not become a surprise, especially not to a Christian, because if you know the word, it is written in Isaiah, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil." And then also an excerpt from 2 Peter. "Knowing this first, that scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lusts, and saying, Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers all slept, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For they willfully forget the word of God. And consider this, foretold of long ago," you'll find in 2 Timothy. "But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of goodness, but denying its power. And from such people turn away." Now let's turn the corner in this podcast. This is the Alpha Male Podcast. Alpha males don't complain. Alpha males get stuff done. This was not a complaining. This was a realization of where we are at. Consider this a call to arms. Stand up and be a man. What can you do? What can you do right now? Today. Today is a day of your salvation. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. For all the bad things we talked about, there are some great things that you can leverage that people in the past would love to be able to take advantage of. You can travel fairly freely, especially for right now, at least in the United States. Think of how vast and how much you can travel in a short amount of time. Think of it, how it took months and it was a perilous journey on a wagon train to get to the West, but you can do it easily now in a car in a few days. Think about how easy it is, instead of complaining, how easy it is to turn off the programming, turn off what other people are trying to get you to think on TV. Think about the tools you can use that exist in today's society to form your own tribe, to forge your own tribes. As that alpha male, as the leader, what can you do to strengthen yourself and strengthen your tribe? Society may have forgotten how valuable warriors are, but you can still be a great warrior. You can still, if you're listening to this in America anyway, or to the extent you can wherever you are, you can be armed, you can carry a gun, you can train and be proficient. There's value in training and being disciplined, even if you never have to use it. The quality of knife you can get right now for a reasonable amount of money. How much your ancestors would love to have a tool that nice. Think about what a devastating and deadly and useful tool a shotgun is, even a relatively simple and inexpensive one. Think about what an amazing opportunity and resource as it is. For $100 or less than $200, you can get a good, decent 12-gauge shotgun that can kill anything on the planet. You can train with it, you can hunt with it, you can defend your family with it. You can put food on the table with it. Think about this, if most men around you have been tricked into thinking it's okay to be weak, how much more do you shine bright when you're strong? When it seems like a lot of other men are scared of their own shadow today, how much more do the bold and strong and courageous stand out? So realize the situation that we're in this society. Realize what a strange environment it is, but don't focus on the negative. Focus on what is good. Focus on what is pure. Focus on the truth. If the whole world believes the lies, you believe the truth. You focus on the truth. You focus on what is strong and what is true. Stand up and be a man when everybody else is cowering. Think about this. Men. Mankind. Humans, more than any other creature, change their environment. That can be done for good or for bad. Our environment that we're in now, that we were born into, we've already discussed what that is. But you as a man, and even more so you as an alpha male, have the ability to change your environment. It is written, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You can literally start by taking care of yourself and your neighbor. Changing your world, your neighbor's world. Changing it for the better. So maybe sometime this week put down that iPhone. Stop looking at things you maybe shouldn't look at because they're at worst at best a distraction, at worst a sin. And get back to being an alpha male and changing your environment. That can be as simple as, getting out of the office, getting out of the cul-de-sac and taking a walk in nature. It could be as simple as going from some unnatural, scientifically designed food product that resembles actual food and eating actual human food. If you can't go out and kill something and eat it, get some whole nuts and crack them with your hands like a man, or crack them with your jaw like a man and eat them. Real human food. Hazelnut. Delicious. Society as a whole might not value your strength, but somebody around you probably does. I don't know what that is for you in your life. Maybe it's helping an older lady on your street. Maybe it's counseling a young man to be an alpha male. Mental strength, mental toughening. Maybe it's instead of ordering something on Amazon, maybe it's going out with your hands and beating a nail with a hammer. Or turning a screw. Alpha males don't complain. Alpha males get stuff done. Change your environment for the better. Take charge like an alpha male does. You may have noticed a difference in the audio quality partway through this podcast. Well, the microphone that I have for podcasting died. Not a hardware problem, I don't think. A software problem. It's for some reason not talking to the laptop. I tried the normal thing, shutting everything down, restarting it. Still didn't work. My plan A didn't work. My plan B didn't work. I don't even know what plan this is on now. I tried a couple other things that didn't work. Doing it on the phone, doing it another format and uploading it didn't work. It is now 4:30 in the morning, and I'm still doing this 4:33 in the morning. I'm still doing this podcast. Alpha males don't make excuses. Alpha males get stuff done. And for all the bad things we talked about, don't think just about on the bad things. Think about the good things. Think about this. You can probably read. You're probably literate. That's a great gift of modern society that you've been given. You likely have a Bible. You likely have access to a Bible and some books. You have access to be able to read for yourself the greatest truth that man has ever known. You can get on that phone that's often a distraction and use it to research likely anything. Any topic you want to know about. You want to learn how to tie more knots? You can look it up on your phone. You want to learn more about the Vikings that disappeared on Greenland? You can look it up on a podcast on your phone. I was listening to that earlier tonight. If you're listening to this in America and you're even lower middle class, you likely have more resources or access to more resources than most people throughout human history. Instead of getting distracted by those resources and chasing the next dollar, maybe think of how those resources can benefit you. Use your environment to your advantage. Don't become a slave to your environment. Rise up and be a master and dominate your environment like the alpha male you were made to be. Rise up, persevere, speak the truth, be a man, and don't apologize. With that, we'll wrap up this episode, guys. If you like this episode, hopefully you listen to this for the content and not for the audio quality, because like I said, we lost the audio quality a little bit in this podcast. But if you like, please hit the like, subscribe. Please feel free to comment. If you like this podcast, you may like a few others that we do. If you care about the important stuff more, you can go to Simple Man Sermons, the preachings of a simple man called by God to share the good news of Jesus Christ. If you like guns and things about guns, you can go to Gunfighter Life. I am a professional gunfighter, have been for most of my adult life. With that, I'll wrap that into the bio, a little bit about who I am and what I do. And if you stick around till the end, I'll give you a little tactical tip. Until next time. Who I am? First and foremost, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. I grew up in the southeastern United States, what most would consider poor. Grew up hunting and fishing and shooting at a very early age. I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I did combat tours, plural, in Iraq. After that, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps. After the Marine Corps time, I went to work for LAPD, where I worked regular assignments and more specialized assignments. I've also been a private contractor for the federal government. I've also served the United States Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. I have been a state rifle and pistol champion in a few different states, a few different times over. I started shooting competitions even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I am very blessed to have all those talents, and I am very blessed that God got me through everything that He's gotten me through alive and in one piece and made it back safely when a lot of other good men did not. Not because of anything that I am, but because of who God has made me and because of how much God has protected me and sheltered me. I have served as the commander of a tactical team in a large metropolitan area where our primary job is to stock active shooters. I've hunted and fished all over this beautiful country, everything from whitetail on the East Coast and mule deer on the West Coast, and elk and bear and wolf and exotics, and buffalo. I've been a professional hunter and guide, professional firearms instructor, FBI certified, NRA certified, other three-letter government agency certified, professional firearms instructor for a lot of years. And as I mentioned first, the most alpha thing about me is I am a follower of Jesus Christ, the ultimate alpha male. With that being said, we'll get into today's topic. With that, guys, the tactical tip. Going to give you a tip in the way of a product. Now, likely if you're, into the prepping, survival, gunfighting, paramilitary world, obviously as I am, if you heard the bio, which you just did, everybody knows about paracord. Paracord's great for a lot of things. Paracord has its uses. Paracord is better than this thing that I'm going to tell you about for a lot of things. But for a lot of things I'm going to tell you about, this thing is better. And this is called microcord. It comes in a couple of different diameters. I'm going to recommend the 1.18. You can look it up, microcord, just like it sounds. And it's quite a bit thinner and smaller than paracord, but still quite a bit beefier than, the little internal strands that are just white in the paracord. It's great for, making a lanyard, for a neck knife, for a fire starter. It's great for making like a lanyard to grab onto for your knife. I found this wandering around a store one day, like a sporting goods store, and I saw it. Anyway, it's called microcord, the 1.18, I think, millimeter. It comes in a couple of different lengths, or a couple of different widths, rather. Maybe try that out. You can get it. I saw that they have it on eBay, but it's microcord. It's great for a lot of different things. Like we just talked about, getting off that phone a little bit, one of the things you can do, a real skill that's easy to learn. Maybe listen to the Manly Skills episode. Maybe I'll put that out this week as a second episode. But keep a length of a paracord or that or some other kind of string in your pocket. And when you have a little bit of downtime, instead of getting on your phone and looking up something that's probably not relevant, teach yourself a couple of knots. A bowline knot, a simple lashing knot, a kind of a knot to put two pieces together of string together and making it strong. A couple of very basic strong knots that you know and can do on command. That's a good skill to have as a man, as an alpha male. Alright, with that, guys, let me know. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know in the comments if you like the new format, if you like the bio in the beginning, or if you like it at the end. This is our podcast. We're a community. Consider this our virtual tribe of like-minded alpha males. So please give me comments. Do you like the tactical tips? Do you rather leave them out? Do you want to get rid of the bio altogether because most of you have heard it before? Do you like more of the episodes like that came out last week on EDC or the knife episode? Or do you more like the philosophical episodes like we talked about today? You know, I give God credit for everything that I have and everything that I do. First and foremost, everything that I have belongs to God. And after that, I consider this our community, our podcast. So if there's something you like or don't like, please let me know. Also, although this is free to listen to, it is not free to produce and put out. I am very thankful to people that support this financially. If you'd like to support, please go to Patreon and type in Good Shepherd Training. That's the umbrella that houses all those podcasts, Good Shepherd Training. Or you can just go to Patreon and type in Alpha Male podcast. I did it. It popped up. So go to Patreon if you want to support for as little as $1 a month or more if you feel led to. If you have it in your heart to give, financially give, and if not, don't feel guilty. If you have other ways you want to support, other ways that maybe financially support, you can contact me. You know, Good Shepherd Training on Patreon, goodshepherdtraining.com, Good Shepherd Training on Instagram. If you want to join the part of the community, if you want to see more visual stuff, you can get a hold of us that way. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'm humbled that anybody listens to this, that God uses me for anything at all, because he certainly doesn't need me, and I thank you for staying put till the end. Get out there and be an alpha male. Have a blessed day.